Good evening. Today we're going to be looking at lesson 7.4, multiplying fractions. So before we get started, let's take a look at our essential question. How can you use an area model to show the product of two factors? All right, let's go ahead and get started with our word problem. Jane is making reusable grocery bags and lunch bags. She needs 3/4 yard of material to make a grocery bag. A lunch bag needs 2/3 of the amount of material a grocery bag needs. How much material does she need to make a lunch bag? All right, let's start off by underlining our key question, and that is how much material does she need to make a lunch bag? Now let's go back into our word problem and see if we can pull out any keywords or key information. She is making reusable grocery bags and lunch bags. She needs 3/4 yards, so let's go ahead and circle the 3/4 yard of materials to make a grocery bag. So we know that in order to make a grocery bag, we need 3/4 of materials. Okay, a lunch bag needs 2/3 of the amount of materials. So we know that's important. A lunch bag needs 2/3. So lunch equals 2/3 of the grocery bag materials. Right? So how much materials does she need to make a grocery bag? All right, very first thing that we're going to do, it says to find 2/3 of 3/4. Well, we know that of also means to multiply. So in our word problem, we know that we're going to be multiplying. All right, you guys can do this at home. I will walk you through it. It says to fold a sheet of paper vertically into 4 equal parts. Using the vertical folds as a guide, shade 3/4 yellow. Okay, so we're going to take our piece of paper vertically and fold it into 4 equal parts and shade 3 of those 4 parts yellow. Now the next step, and if you still need more time, go ahead and push pause until you finish, but the next step says to fold the paper horizontally into 3 equal parts. Using the horizontal folds as a guide, shade 2/3 of the yellow sections blue. So first we folded it vertically into 4 equal parts. Now we're folding it horizontally into 3 equal parts, and 2 of those 3 equal parts will be shaded blue. Now the next step is to count the number of sections into which the whole paper is folded. So how many rectangles are formed by all the folds in the paper? And the answer to that is going to be 12. Altogether there are 12 rectangles formed. Now the next question is what fraction of the whole sheet of paper does one rectangle represent? So one of those rectangles out of 12, so that means it's going to equal 1/12. Next step is to count the sections that are shaded twice and record the answer. So we need the rectangles that have been shaded yellow and shaded blue. Not just one or the other, but they have to be shaded yellow and blue. And that's going to be 6/12. And we all know that 6 is half of 12, so 6/12 is also going to be equal to 1/2. So Jane needs 1/2 yard of material to make a lunch bag. All right, let's look at our first question under Draw Conclusions. Explain why you shaded 2/3 of the yellow sections blue rather than shading 2/3 of the whole. Well, that's kind of easy. And the answer is, since we were finding 2/3 of 3/4, or multiplying 2/3 times 3/4, and not 2/3 of one whole, we only needed to shade 2/3 of the yellow sections. Now let's take a look at number 2, and remember you can push pause if you need more time to record the answer. Number 2, analyze what you are finding if a model shows 1/2 of a sheet of paper shaded yellow and 1/3 of the yellow section shaded blue. And the answer to that question is I am finding 1/3 of 1/2 or 1/3 times 1/2, which is 1/6. And the way that we get 1/6 is when we're multiplying fractions, a little bit different when we're multiplying fractions. Let's just look at this. 1/3 times 1/2. It's very similar to what we were doing in the previous couple chapters where we multiply the numerators and then we multiply the denominators. So when you're multiplying fractions, remember we have to multiply the numerator times the numerator, and that's going to give us an answer of 1. 1 times 1 equals 1. And then we multiply the denominators together. And I'm multiplying the denominators, that's 3 times 2, and 3 times 2 equals 6. So 1/3 times 1/2 equals 1/6. Now let's make a connection a little bit deeper. So it says you can find a part of a part in different ways. Margot and James both correctly solved the problem 1/3 times 3/4 using the steps shown. So we are going to use this steps to shade how each person found 1/2 times 3/4. So first we have Margot over here, and then we have James over here. So it says to shade the model to show 3/4 of the whole. So we're going to shade 3 portions of this whole because our numerator tells us how much to shade. Now it says, how many 1/4 pieces did you shade? Well, we've got 1, 2, 3. So we actually shaded 3 1/4 pieces. Then it says to find 1/3 of 3/4, circle 1/3 of the 3 1/4 pieces that are shaded. So what part of the whole is 1/3 of the shaded pieces? Okay, that's going to be 1/4 of the whole. So if we look down here, 1/3 times 3/4 equal. Well, let's just do it. Multiply our numerator times our numerator, or 1 times 3. 1 times 3 equals 3. And then we're going to multiply our denominator times our denominator. And 3 times 4 equals 12. And we know we can simplify this because we know that 3 goes into both 3 and 12. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 12 divided by 3 equals 4. So our answer is 1/4. Now let's look at how James did it. It says to shade the model to show 3/4 of the whole. Okay, we can do that to show 3/4 of the whole. Kind of the same way that we did with Margot. Now our next step says to divide each 1/4 piece into thirds. Now this is not going to be very neat, but I'm going to try and do it for you. So it says to divide each into thirds. That's going to be 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, they're not very good ones, but you get the idea. All right? Now, what part of the whole is each small piece? And if you look at that, the part of the whole that is each small piece is going to be 1/12. Now, to find 1/3 of 3/4, circle 1/3 of each of the 3 1/4 pieces that are shaded. So we can do that. It says to circle 1/3 of each of the shaded areas. So that's going to be 1/3 circled here, 1/3 circled here, 1/3 circled here. All right. Now, so how many 1/12 pieces are circled? And we see that we have circled 1, 2, and 3. So the answer to that is going to be 3 1/12 pieces are circled. So we can see that 1/3 times 3/4 equals 3/12 because it's now divided into 12 pieces and 3 of the pieces are circled. Or we can simplify that to 1/4. Okay, down at the bottom it says to pose a problem that can be solved using the equation above. We are just going to skip that, so go ahead and put an X over that. And let's go ahead and take out our math journals. And let's copy down our notes for fraction by a fraction multiplication. Remember, if you need additional time to copy the notes, go ahead and push pause right now. Now, let's focus on our password that you need to bring with you to class tomorrow. And we have been using this time to add and multiply decimals. So we're going to do another multiplication of decimals, but this time I'm not going to give you the answer. I just want you to copy it down and bring it with you to class tomorrow. So it's going to be 12 3/10, there's the decimal, don't forget that, times 4 58/100. So go ahead and copy this down and bring it with you. Now this is going to be tricky because you may have to add a magic 0 somewhere in order to hold the place value, and you need to make sure you remember how many places to the right of the decimal you're going to have to put the answer. So we will take a look at this one in class tomorrow, but go ahead and solve it, and I will see you tomorrow.